All right, Metcalf, it's time. It's the last 30 and 30. We've done 30 prospects, or excuse me, we've done 29 prospects in 30 days to get draft fans excited for the college basketball season. Today is the final one. It is Darryn Peterson time, baby. Kansas freshman listed at 6'6", 205 by the Kansas Jayhawks website. I really am excited for this one because it's going to get weird because there's a lot of fun things to talk about, Metcalf. So one of the most hyped prospects in recent memory. A lot of these guys, we just did a Cam Boozer episode. We just did AJ Devanza. We had glowing things to say about them. We're going to have glowing things to say about Darryn Peterson because everyone's realizing the hype is real. So sum it up, Metcalf. If you haven't watched Darryn Peterson, hit someone with the knowledge right now. Why is he legit and worth the hype and attention he's getting?
And offensively, I'm not sure there really is a weakness. And defensively, he has like fringe all defensive team upside and potential. He's about as complete of a guard, especially as complete of a two guard as you could possibly ask for at this stage in his development. He's so well-rounded. He's so polished. The composure's off the charts. Whatever you need him to do, he can do it. I adore watching him play basketball. He's just so much fun. And obviously he'll go get his own, but it also rarely feels like he's forcing the issue or not playing within the team context while also dominating and putting up insane individual numbers.
He's worth the price of admission. He's worth your time when you're thinking about like, hey, should I watch some Darryn Peterson film tonight? It's like, yes, the answer is always going to be yes. You should always watch film, but especially, Darryn Peterson is going to be special this year. We're going to see a lot of, ups and downs because I think there's going to be games where Kansas is going to put everything on him, and he's a human and he's a basketball player. There's games where you're a little cold and stuff, but offensively, the versatility and what he can do, this is a guy that even if the shot's not, falling, he can still pick you apart with a lot of his game. What's your favorite thing? Let's start it there. I have 5 million thoughts running around in my head. So this is a fun talent. So what's the number one thing that like caught your attention, or what is the number one, sales pitch right away with the offense? With the offense.
And the first thing that pops is just the way he moves.
Yeah.
And he glides on the court. It's like he's moving at a different speed. And he incorporates power and strength with deceleration and bursts of speed in tight spaces. And he just moves like Hall of Famers move. He's already out there just navigating the court like a pro. But then once he does that, it's all right. Well, he can get to a spot whenever he wants. And we saw how much of the playmaking grew this last year, where he emerged from just a scorer into just an all-around offensive engine. And that's tough for a lot of two guards to make that jump. A lot of guys are really good athletes and really good scorers. Very few of them, or what separates the elite prospects from the enticing ones, is the guys who actually tangibly make that playmaking leap and that offensive creation leap and that decision-making leap, like we saw Peterson do in his last year at Prolific Prep. And the fact that he's that well-rounded this early, it's kind of scary for what it means for his long-term development.
I think scary is the best word because it's all, oh my gosh, look at what this is. Like, look at what this could become. And it's not just like, oh, he's doing this at 6'3", so we could fascinate like, is he too small for it all? It's 6'6", 205.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. If we're saying Kansas is rounding up, he's still going to be 6'5"-ish with good frame, good size. Checks a lot of boxes quickly. Let's get these out. So stats, because let's just get past this so we can get really into the nitty-gritty stuff, as I like to say. At Prolific Prep, this is per synergy, 29.1 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.8 steals, 1.1 blocks. Pretty good. Shooting splits of 46, 36, 82, but that is 3-point percentage is on 7 attempts. So that's even, impressive that it's that many attempts. But Darryn's special. A lot of these guys are special, especially the top 3 in this class. That's why people are quickly finding out it's worth the hype. It's worth the buzz. But Darryn is one of those, not only does he have all these tools, he has the tenacity. He has that look and that competitive drive that you dream of when you're trying to get a top talent. And the first time I, really did a deep dive on his game this offseason, trying to kill time because we're missed basketball so badly. So I was like, oh, okay, offensively, it's just a stud. And I was like, oh, he's going to be this offensive focal point. Fine. Then you start seeing the playmaking flashes and you're like, wow, hold on a second. I wasn't ready for this. So now we have that scoring potential and this. That's where he's going to be just a potential nightmare for defenses because you're just gonna make. How do we slow him down? What? Hit me some more. Do you want to go positive or negative?
No, I legitimately don't know if I can go negative on the offense because and so something that really stood out aside from the scoring and stuff was in his high school games was how composed he was under pressure and how he just always kept his handle alive. He never allowed himself to get trapped or put in bad positions where he'd pick up his handle too early or allowed the defense to get the ball out of his hands. Instead, it was just keeping his dribble alive, keeping his options open, and then making the right decision when he needed to make it. And that didn't really show up in their scrimmage against Louisville. So if you're like, if that's all your only exposure to Darryn Peterson so far, and you're like, this guy's an idiot, I don't know what he's talking about. I also did a film school breakdown on him on the No Ceilings YouTube where I go through a lot of his passing and handle and that kind of stuff. Go check it out. But it just allows him to get wherever he wants. And once I chalk the Louisville scrimmage a little more up to just nerves, excitement, first college game, that kind of stuff. If it really continues, then we can start nitpicking and digging into that. But offensively, he's maybe the most well-rounded offensive prospect I've ever scouted coming out of high school.
You hear that stuff and then you're like, okay. And then you go watch the tape and you're like, all right, everybody might be onto something here. But this one, because you want to see it for your own eyes. And then you start, when I start hearing a lot of you guys in No Ceilings, like kind of hyping them up, or like or scouts around the league where they're hyping them up. And then you're like, okay, let me do some homework here. And you start watching, you're like, okay, I understand what everyone's seeing now. There's so much weaponry with his game. And we say all the time, like exhibition games are exhibition games. We feel the same way everyone does. You don't overreact to the end result, but you do like to see what these players do in the games and how they look and what have they been working on. And the thing that caught my attention the most is like he made a couple mistakes against Louisville, and it was the next possession he had figured it out. Like it was that quick. He had a bad turnover, next possession, same exact set, throws a dime, alley-oop. There was just a lot of those instances where it's like the next play up and quick processing. Whenever he did make a mistake, and it wasn't often, he would be able to figure it out. There's typical defensive stuff early in the year, I think, that can get it a little ironed out. We can talk about the defense in a sec. So finishing off with the offense, there's multi-level scoring ability. If you had questions about the shot, he just went 6 for 9 from deep in the first half.
I never understood the questions with the shot.
Exactly. So my only question was ever with the shot was like, well, is it the catch and shoot going to come around? And then I was like, okay, I quickly got that answered in that first exhibition game because it was just more of the balance, the composure. He had a couple deceleration like instances where you're like, oh my gosh, look how quickly he stopped on a dime and got himself straight and balanced. He's the goods, folks. He's the goods on offense. He's going to be really fun. And I think you're right. He's just constantly looks like he's under control or he can adjust, like he's an agent of chaos. So, all right, one last time in the 30 and 30, Dr. Defense, talk to us. So what gets you excited about the defense, Metcalf? Because that's where I'm really terrified in a positive way about what Darryn could be defensively. So talk to the fans. What are we seeing? What are we liking?
And he could be an all NBA level defender when he really locks in, sits down in a stance, is attentive off ball, all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. The problem is just consistency. Like his defense kind of reminds me a lot of how Anthony Edwards plays defense.
Oh, that's a good
where
one.
Like when he's locked in, when it, quote unquote matters, he's incredible. Like he can lock down anyone. He can stay in front of anyone. He can be disruptive off ball. He can rotate from the weak side, but then there will also be stretches where he just kind of goes through the motions and, is upright in the stance or, dies on a screen or just misses a rotation. So it's none of it's so inconsistent that I think it's a problem, but it could still be better.
It's the one part of his game I raise any concerns isn't the right word, but I raise anything where I'm like, oh, this is where I get to focus this year. Like I get to really focus on like, did this improve? And it's the one thing I think that, we say all the time, no prospect's perfect. You look hard enough, you'll find something. You might be like, this guy has no holes. Yes, he does. I'll find one. Give me some time. I'll find one. Darryn, you could see there are flashes defensively where I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm talking flashes that were like, you felt the same way when you watched Amen Thompson locked in or Asar Thompson. I was just like, if you get that consistently, could be an all NBA defensive talent. Darryn had in high school some plays where I was like, you can't teach that. You can't, like that is just God-given vision, anticipation, timing. Like you can't show a guy on tape right away and be like, can you do this? and him be able. It's just some things there's just you can't teach, and it's just unbelievable awareness defensively. There's also times where it's just like, okay, I need to get the other. What happened to the other guy? Can I get that guy back? So you see it a couple times, and it's mainly like, hey, closing out. It could coast a little bit, where all of a sudden it's just maybe an offensive guy trying to get some plays off, where you're trying to buy yourself some energy, and all of a sudden it's like, well, a veteran guard will feel your momentum going one way, blow right by you, or it's closing out with your feet going the different way. So I think those are all very fixable. Yes. I think a coaching staff will fix that in the middle of the year. If it doesn't get fixed at Kansas, an NBA developmental staff will have you fixed in training camp. So it's stuff where I'm like, hey, I think this will be fine to figure out. But I'm with you. The defense has very legit all NBA upside, like all NBA defensive upside. So everything we're just talking about, it's like, that's because you break down the game and look at what you could have. And I think, we've talked about the big three that everyone's referencing now, of like Cam Boozer. We've talked about his weaknesses of like, hey, is it the lateral athleticism? AJ DeBansa, we said like maybe some off-ball defense, or, some offensive areas to just improve with the playmaking. All these guys have weaknesses, but I think the big Darryn Peterson is, I think we're getting smaller with the weaknesses. We're like, I'm really nitpicking here. So any lasting thoughts, Metcalf? I know a lot of people are going to compare him to some big names this year. We've, a couple of people on our team have thrown out the Kobe phrase, and I get it, but you know what? We hated it at first, and then we kept watching. And we're like, maybe they're onto something. Maybe they're smart for once. Maybe they're really onto something.
No, I get why those are used, because stylists, like it looks, you can see it. I really hate throwing out all-time great names, because that's unfair to the player and the kid, because it's impossible to ever live up to that. But he might.
He might be. And then we mentioned Tim Duncan and Boozer, and we were like, did it sound fair? But also he might be. And we're just like, this is special. This is going to be the most fun top of the class debate than we've probably had since No Ceilings, because it's just these three could all go number one. But Darryn right now is just like just enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride. And, I think the fun part about this too, the last thing, I know we're kind of going off, but they're all different position. Yeah. That's why it's fun.
They're all very different players too.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, this has been a joy. I loved doing this with Metcalf. Metcalf, thank you for helping me out with this one. This is a project we decided to do a long time ago, and it has been a grind, but it has also been a joy. So thank you guys so much for the support. This has been great. 30 prospects in 30 days. And because you watched the last one, guess what? College basketball is back and draft season is here. That means you need to also go to NoCeilingsNBA.com. We just launched the draft guide probably a couple of days before this. It's going to be a fun year. We're very excited. Thank you guys all for the support. We love you guys. Take care. We'll see you soon.